Shortly after he came to office, President Ghani from Afghanistan came to Washington for a series of meetings about the future of the country. But it happened to be right at the time the Senate intelligence report on CIA torture was released. And at these big press conferences that he held, he made several interventions at each of them about the importance of the report, what he learned, how moved he was. He said on one hand, it was amazing that the U.S. had the capacity to self-criticize, that was a sign of strength. But he also said, the evidence is here that should lead to prosecutions. At one point, he specifically pointed out the two psychologists and the information about them as the designers, promoters, deliverers of torture in this country. He spoke very movingly about the impact torture had had on Afghanistan, on the many victims that it had left, on the destructive impact it had on Afghan politics, on the creations of fear and distrust. And so he hoped that the U.S. would move forward on accountability. And of course, we haven't. I think when we think about this decision from the ICC, we need to keep in mind that the most important actor on accountability has to be the American people, has to be ourselves. And that the ICC offered some hope that we might create some kind of new political leverage that would lead to movements for accountability in the United States. So, of course, we have President and John Bolton, both of whom have reputations for their strategy of foreign affairs is to bully people. And so the first thought about this decision to stop the prosecutor's investigation is that they succumb to the bullying tactics of the United States. I don't know if that's true. U.S. has been bullying the ICC for a long time, and you might say that that actually would encourage Europe and other places who support the ICC to push for the ICC to move forward, not to stand back from it. So that makes me think that there are other reasons why the judges made this decision. The helpful part was that the prosecution was part of the discourse of fairness, that even the powerful could come before the court and be held accountable for high crimes, war crimes, and that's certainly going to be what we feel is a loss by the ICC not doing this. But I think the bigger question for the ICC is to realize it's a small organization. It has very limited resources, and the most important thing it can do at this point to establish its legitimacy is to show that it's also effective. And so many cases are in the process. A couple of cases have been lost by insufficient prosecutorial investigation. And so there's a real concern about the dispersal of its resources when there are times in any organization's life that to be effective it has to concentrate its resources. A strategy is taking the resources we have to get what we need to get what we want, in Marshall Ganz's terms. So ICC has to take its scarce resources, invest those in places where it can establish more authority because it shows that it's effective. Effective in prosecuting crimes that it's capable of investigating, and also effective in influencing local courts. So it's significant, I think, that President Ghani himself did not make the appeal to the ICC, despite his great concern. That in itself is symbolic that the ICC couldn't even really rely on support of the Afghan government in moving this forward. all the more the Taliban in the United States, it isn't clear that the ICC was capable of making an investigation under these terms. What may be needed is more what President Santos accomplished in Colombia, using the shot of the ICC to influence negotiations, to make sure that accountability is on the table for all of the parties. And that may be something different than criminal trials, but nevertheless, putting justice on the table. The ICC may still be able to accomplish that. It will be more effective even that kind of action if first it proves itself effective.